Yeah,
Nice.
man.
Cheers. Made it to the big green seat. cheers.
Nice one.
Nice, have a little sip. So, do you mind if I intro something?
Bro, go for it, man.
I want to tell a story.
Go on.
So first and foremost, appreciate being on the show.
Come on, man.
Long time listener, first time caller situation. I was watching the episode you've done with Callum, and then subsequently I watched the episode you've done with Coffer.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I've got to get on that. I want to speak to my man about some deep stuff. But anyway, I was at home earlier, and obviously we'll get into this in a minute, but today is a big day for Callum and I. We're obviously airing our documentary that we built about Hatfield.
Yeah.
Hatfield Tap, 7:30, be there, be square. That's still happening in the past.
And I guess the other bit of context is tomorrow, from the day we're recording this, we're going to be radio interviewing on BBC, Three Counties Radio, to talk about the documentary. So that kind of adds a little bit more context.
Correct.
Carry on.
So it's like big day, feeling pretty hectic. I've woken up this morning. I'm staying at my parents' house not in Hatfield, and I'm calling Callum this morning. I'm on the phone, and you've just messaged saying, "Oi boys, I'm running late. I think my train's going to arrive in Hatfield at like 22 minutes past 12 or something." So I'm saying to Callum, "Hey, yo, what's the plan? Like, what are we doing? What's up movement? Juancho's coming in here. He says he's going to be it's getting here about 22 minutes past 12. So we go and get him from the train station. What are we saying? Blah, 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 blah." Hear my mum in the background. "What? The one show's coming?" You managed to get the one show.
Oh, no.
You see the one show. Listen, Angela, if you're listening, big up. Mama Lawrence. But I was like, yeah, no, we've got the one show coming down. It is the one show.
It is the one show.
I want to introduce myself to your mum as the one
yeah,
show.
you have to, because I think it'll blow her mind. But so yeah, I thought that was really funny, man. But
That is hilarious.
yeah, just crazy. It's been a crazy like 6 months, isn't it? Getting this ready.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. I don't know if you introduced yourself in that moment, but I'm Callum. I've been on the show before, if anyone's seen that episode. And
my name's Jack, and again, first time on the show. I'm a former resident of Hatfield, and current producer of the documentary Hatfield, the 5th most boring city in the world.
That's it still. Yeah, man, it's funny. It's exciting, bro, leading up to this day still. I remember when I sat down with Callum told me a bit about the whole thing going on, and I was just like, yeah, man, this is going to be real interesting, because I think it's nice documenting a place that goes under the radar. Not a lot of people know that, like, in places under the radar, there's still a lot of life, a lot to, like, I don't know, just kind of sitting and observing it. So being able to give that out now, especially to the people of your town, bro, must be fulfilling.
it's exciting. And it's been a long process as well. So obviously when we spoke, that was in the summer, right? We're now coming up to Christmas, so it's been a long time coming. But yeah, the night's finally arrived, and it is crazy, and it's interesting on so many ways. But one of the main reasons is we've forced ourselves into this experimentation, and we've managed to see it through.
Yeah, for sure.
Right to the end, to the point where, obviously, if we flip this camera right now, this is a sea of chairs ready for a screening tonight. That's going to be 130, 140 people strong, which is really, I've been overwhelmed all day. I keep telling you, this is very daunting.
It's scary.
But very, very exciting.
In 5 hours' time, we would be literally sitting in front of the screen.
Yeah.
Less than that.
Be in the way.
Yeah,
We've
less
asked
than
more
that.
questions, bro.
But like, the thing is with this whole process is, and this is a bit of the history and the context, like, Callum called me up, I think it was like end of springtime, start of summer, and he was like, "How you doing?" Blah blah blah. Obviously I live away from Hatfield now, so I don't see Callum as much as I'd like to. And he calls me up, I think I was going for a run down the river, and I stopped. He was like, "Mate, I've spoken to Judd," we'll talk about Judd in a minute. Like, we're gonna do the documentary. Now again, to you that doesn't really mean much. To me, I was absolutely buzzing, because it was like the combination of so many conversations, like throughout probably the last 15 years maybe, of just talking about doing a documentary. Callum's always been keen to do a documentary on Hatfield. I've always been super keen to do a documentary on Judd specifically, and the two, like, a chance meeting a few Christmases ago sparked the realization that actually we could actually just do a documentary.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago, basically this month, isn't it?
Exactly that. And then
You two have been friends for how long? Yoks.
Wow, man. I met Callum from my little brother, actually.
Yeah, so we've been friends since secondary school, and our our filmmaking journey started about 13 years ago when we did a show called Kyriakos together.
Sick.
And that actually is actually kind of the preamble to the fact that we ended up making a documentary, because Kyriakos is a mockumentary series that we actually made. And it's funny because some people have said that the documentary we're screening tonight kind of has like a People Just Do Nothing vibes. Have you heard of that show?
Yeah. People Just Do Nothing is good.
Kyriakos was People Just Do Nothing before People Just Do Nothing. We got
did nothing.
We got in just before that, but because it was a very independent YouTube thing, basically, I don't know what, 700 people saw it. But when we see People Just Do Nothing now, we always think to ourselves, no, we were first.
We started this.
It's such a weird like cycle that we've been through, isn't it? That we joked, like the first stuff that we did together was a joke, documentary, and now we've actually built a documentary.
A documentary that is very comedic. It's very, very comedic. But it is real, and it is honest, and it is sincere. But by virtue of using Judd as the main character, who is this just like basically the perfect embodiment of the Hatfield that we know.
Right.
It might not be the Hatfield that everyone knows, but the Hatfield we know, Judd just surmises it perfectly.
I'm going to do a swap. I'm going to give you these 2 round ones, and I need to nick those 2 rectangular ones. Is that all right?
Wicked,
Yeah,
thank you.
that'd be amazing.
I was just going to ask, like, how long have you lot known Judd for then?
Well, I mean, known of probably about the same amount. Well, actually, probably slightly less. He's a bit younger than
Judd's the skater, right?
He's a skater.
Yeah.
He's a bit. I think he's about what 5 years younger than me, or maybe a little bit more.
He was another guy that worked on this film was a guy called Ryan Beeman. He's 2 years younger than me, and he was in Judd's year. So, so
about 4 or 5 years younger than me. But I remember the first time I met Judd.
Yeah.
Like literally, I was in the playground at school.
Yeah.
And I reckon, I mean, I would have been in like 6th form or like approaching 6th form, and he would have been like year 8 or something. And I just remember seeing this guy who had a really cool style, had a skateboard on him, and he was like popping off some tricks. And at that time, I was big into skateboarding, terrible at it, so bad. I was not good at skateboarding. But he was just like this little dude, like sick at skateboarding. And I was like basically trying to live my life through him. And it's really odd. Like I always think, you know, the measure of a man, when you're older than them, but you want them to think you're cool. That's how I saw this guy. I was like, this guy's so cool. But he's like in year 8. Like he's already so cool and so individual.
That's how I see Juan. To be
Really?
fair.
I've got friends that
I
too.
want you to think I'm cool, big time.
No, you're good, bro.
That's good.
I want you to think Callum's cool on his behalf. But so yeah, we always used to joke about him. And like, I said to him, I see him doing some tricks. Like, mate, let's make a skateboarding video. Like, back in the day, that was like a massive thing because like Tony Hawk's Underground and like those pro skater games. And I was like, let's just make you like a skate vid, and we'll like send it to like Quicksilver, or we'll send it to Etnies or something, and we'll get you like a skateboarding contract and all this stuff. The funny thing is, years later, he actually become a semi-professional skater. He was sponsored, man.
No way.
And it was like mad, but yeah, that's how kind of I started chatting to him. I guess.
For my money, I didn't want to do that. Like, and obviously that's all well and good. Just the skateboard video thing just isn't my style generally, and I didn't want to do that. So when Jack and I spoke about doing a documentary about Judd, I always thought, yeah, he's an amazing character. I just didn't think it was a good idea generally because there just wasn't an impetus, there wasn't a reason, right? And similarly, I wanted to make a documentary about Hatfield, but similarly, there was no impetus, there was no reason. So for the longest time, I was just like, yeah, these two things are great ideas to have on the back burner, but until something comes along that secures these ideas, I don't want to do it. And then all of a sudden, this article comes out.
I was going to say,
that
was it. That was it. That was a missing piece of the puzzle.
An article comes out probably just about a year ago now, but it's had some resurgences within that year. An article comes out from a company called theWildBucketList.com that declares Hatfield the 5th most boring city in the world.
It's crazy.
So you look
the whole world.
In the whole world.
You must have visited a fair few to make that like.
Or not.
It's very strange. I've actually spoken to the woman who wrote the article now. I got in touch with her, and as far as I can tell, it was very slapdash put together.
Right, I get it.
Because when I said to her, like, oh, you know, I'm a Hatfield resident, I've made this documentary about one of your articles, it was the impetus for the documentary, and I'd love you to see it. And she came back, she went, oh, amazing, yeah, it sounds quality. What was the article? And I thought to myself, surely I've just told you I'm from Hatfield. Surely you would just click. Surely you'd just be like, of course. And she didn't know. So I have to assume she just throws out X amount of articles at a time. You know, and the article's fine, whatever. But the main thing that happened was it got picked up by so many other tabloids.
Yeah.
So the Sun printed it, the Metro printed it.
What about Hatfield?
Yeah, they took this article, this 10 boring places, and they were like, Hatfield's been declared the 5th. Metro said it, MSN said it, Welland Hatfield Times, local paper, also obviously touched on it. So people all over the country have all now read this thing, open up their Sun newspaper and gone, okay, there's a town in the UK called Hatfield, and it isn't worth knowing about. That's literally what they've read, right? So that's the bit that kind of made me get my back up a little bit. Like, God, this is crazy. Like, people are just immediately dismissing Hatfield before they know it. And we live in Hatfield. We've lived in Hatfield our whole lives. Jackson moved away, but he was here his whole life up till recently. And we love Hatfield. Yeah. It's our playground, man.
You can say
100%.
lots of things about Hatfield, but it isn't boring. Yeah. And that is basically what we're trying to. Yeah, that's the story we're trying to tell in this documentary through the eyes of its most or one of its most iconic kind of residents, which is Judd, right? And well, iconic for I think like from our generation's perspective. But there will be people that come tonight, and I'm gonna this has been 10 in the future that will probably go, oh, that wasn't what I was expected, or why didn't you mention this thing or this person lived here or whatever. Obviously, we can't mention everything, but for us and our generation and our experience of Hatfield, Judd is like the personification of our Hatfield experience.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Hatfield is seen through his eyes, and you're just kind of giving that to the world.
Exactly.
All right.
And when you do an indie film, you have to find a way. Often this is the case when you have like big themes that you want to get across. In like, let's say you wanted to do a Marvel movie, and you got hundreds of millions of dollars. What you do is, whatever theme you have in mind, you could just make happen on screen. When you're doing indie film, you have to put all of your themes into your characters. Your characters have to be what sells the themes, right?
Oh, okay.
So that's when it all clicked for me, when I realized, we could make a documentary about Hatfield now. Well, we can't do like the most sweeping vistas, we can't do like the most incredible things here, but we can get one amazing fucking character. If we have that character, then everything else is gonna land, hopefully. And the other interesting thing is, obviously, with independent film generally, independent film as in fictional film is a revered genre. Like if you say like, I'm an independent filmmaker, I've made this indie film and it's got into X amount of film festivals, whatever, people are like, oh, that's fucking amazing.
Okay.
If you say I'm an independent documentary filmmaker, that's a different thing. It's almost not quite so revered yet.
It's not like there's a particular, I think there's a word for it, but it's almost like being an independent filmmaker makes you different, quirky, like nice, like makes you like this person's in his own lane. But when it comes to documentary, it's not as
I think documentary over the last years has been sort of completely just taken and owned by things like Netflix, right? Most people that have access to documentary now is through Netflix, and every Netflix film basically will start the same way. They'll have an empty chair, someone will walk into frame and sit down. They'll have a mottled background, and they'll then start telling their story, and then an amazing score will come in, and then they'll have a drone shot after that, whatever. Our documentary, as far as I'm concerned, our documentary is indeed a documentary, but it's also what I refer to as like, it's kind of like a Callum Oakaby Wright film. Like it kind of defies.
It's almost like it's like a docu-film, isn't it? It's a film about Hatfield, but shot as a document. But
it is a but that's the weird thing. It's this weird. There's these weird kind of metatextual levels, because it is a documentary, but it is a film, and it's framed like a film, but it is obviously documentary. There's times, and I think these levels will be the thing that makes people question: is this real? Is this reality? Is this?
We've had that feedback.
People have come back with this, but I think what's beautiful about that feedback is when we ultimately tell people, like, I know that it is real.
Yeah,
there is a bit outside. There's a place called the Galleria just down the road. I was telling you this earlier. Place called Galleria just down the road, and on this particular day of shooting, Judd won't mind me saying, we weren't getting as much energy out of him that day. And again, as I was saying to you earlier, one of the things that we were tussling, right? Basically, either I need to get Judd to give me information, or I need him to give me character. And if I can get one of those two things, then we're good and we can move on. If he's not giving me either of those things, it's not a good scene, right? So we're trying this gallery a bit and it's just not quite landing. We're just going, like we're just not getting there. And then all of a sudden we get gifted from the filmmaking gods. This guy comes in.
Who is all, by the way, was like a character in his own right.
Yeah.
He genuinely, I think people will think he's fake. Because he's such a character.
He basically gave us the scene we needed.
It was mad.
It was.
I'm excited to see what that scene is, man.
A month and we wouldn't have got what we wanted that day. But this guy gets airdropped into shot and gives us this. Probably actually one of my favourite scenes.
It's genius. It's legitimately genius.
And you couldn't have written it, honestly.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually know this until recently. Basically, because I've gone through the sound mix with someone who's helped me with the sound. And one of the things that we've done in that mix is boost the volume of most things. And there's actually something you say behind the camera that I'd never heard before. And now it's boosted, you can hear it. If you listen closely, you can hear you go, we've got the shot, we've got it.
No. You just knew. When things like that happen, you just know that it's meant to be. We were saying this,
So when he asked me, like, did I want to be involved? Obviously, 100% yes.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, what part do we all play? Obviously Callum is like the creative kind of master behind it, like that's his craft. And I was thinking, well, in previous projects, like we've always kind of been like co-writers or whatever, co-creators, but in this it was nice being the producer because it gave me the opportunity to look at it through a slightly different lens. And it like Callum was kind of let loose to do his thing. I had obviously remit to kind of step in and kind of give my own opinion and stuff, but I felt like much more of a kind of enabler of the documentary.
Sick.
If you know what I mean, like I felt like I was making things happen for the documentary.
Exactly that. So for I guess a little bit of context here, the fundamental differences between like a producer and a director, for instance, is the director is, well, in a perfect world, the director is focused on the creative aspects of it, and then if you're lucky enough to have a producer, what they can do is facilitate you to allow you to just do the creative shit, right? So for instance, if there's a location we need to shoot in, I'm already thinking about like, okay, camera, sound, framing, getting performance,
what's
whatever.
the wind doing, like all this
exactly. And then if I can have someone that can just go into the pub, speak to them, and allow us to use that location, that's X amount of mental energy just gone from my mind, and that means I can focus on what's important.
Yeah,
so that's the
stuff I enjoy doing. I really like. I like when we did Kyriakos, for instance. I loved being involved in like the creative side of it. But really, I think I said this to you when I first met you. I don't know if you remember this one, but we was at the pub. We just played football, and I think it was the first time I proper sat down and spoke to you. And I actually remember saying to you that day, "You got to meet my mate Callum.
Love Callum.
You've got to meet my mate.
You've
got to meet my mate Judd." And I said to you, did I? It's not even no BS. Like I said to you, I said to you at Jerry's birthday, I said you were going to like each other. You spent the whole night chatting and stuff, and obviously sparks through, emotions ran high. But I remember saying to you that night, I feel like, for me personally, I'm like a pendulum. I kind of flip between wanted to be like this like billionaire businessman, like ruthless guy, and then wanted to be this kind of like free-spirited, creative, hippy-dippy, whatever. And what I loved about this role that I played in this was that I kind of kept on, I guess I'm saying, like, I was able to do both basically. I could step in and hustle and be scrappy and kind of get the venues that we needed, get the shoots, the locations that we needed and stuff. But at the same time, if there was something, if Judd wasn't delivering in a certain way, or we weren't quite getting the information we wanted, I felt like I was able to step in, and Callum, to be fair to him, was always receptive to that.
Well, and also you'd probably often know when that was happening as well, because if that's happening, the first thing I'm doing is looking at you and going like, what do you think? Like, what can we do to change this? Because this is the beautiful thing about doing this with other people, is that I don't care how famous you are, how good of a filmmaker you are, how good of a creative you are in this field specifically, you don't have all the answers. It's just impossible. It is just impossible. And a massive percentage of the filmmaking process is just shit will get thrown at you and you just have to solve it, right? And everything might be perfect, right? And then, like I say, Judd might just be having a low energy day. and it's just like, fuck, like, okay, everything else is working.
Or you need 100 chairs.
Or you need 100 chairs, like
To the
today.
premiere.
Fucking
that's
mad.
it.
Yeah, so everything's on your side bar one thing, and especially in those mindsets, you think to yourself, "Oh, I'm so mentally prepared right now," and then something can throw a spanner in the works, and it can throw you off your game big time. I guess it's like sports, right? You're on a good vibe, and then something throws you off your game, and everything
You get
fumbles,
2 footed
right?
in the knees.
This
and
guy's a good
stuff.
footballer as well, by the way.
I'm right. I used to play.
nice.
I know. But look, like there was a few things that you lot were saying that was, well, my mind went racing. I was thinking about so many things, trying to stay in the combo. But I think you both answered a question for me that I had, which was, I'm assuming in projects you've worked before, both of you had a hand in the creative process, yeah. But now that like you've both taken on different specific roles, like the level of trust that, let's say for example, you have to have in Callum to know that he's gonna direct things and have a bigger creative hand in it, and just kind of let him do his thing and make sure that it works, is quite high and it's quite inspiring. You know what I mean? Because where you probably had a hand in it before, and you're like, you can say, no, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like that. Like, you can still say that, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, if you know that he's kind of dealing with the creative process, you have to have a lot of trust and faith in him that like he's just going to do his job. I've got to do mine. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, it's interesting because I think if you look at, let's say, like big scale documentaries, big scale movies, because they're so big, everyone knows that they only have a specific part to play. But when it's something smaller like indie, everyone kind of has a hand in everything. Do you know what I mean?
So cool.
Big time.
So being able to like trust each other and know that like fuck, like even though it's quite small, like he still has his part to play, I still got my part to play. It must have been like a whole different experience.
On the biggest levels of filmmaking, I can assure you the producer is not carrying the tripod around.
At all. Yeah.
There are shots in this. There's many shots in this where you'll just see in the corner of the frame Jack's holding a tripod, just going like.
But you know the thing is, like I honestly, like, you know, if one day, right, Callum and I would become this like high flying documentary or filmmaking partnership that's making millions of pounds or dollars and had all these mad budgets, I think I would miss that the most because, and look, obviously, you know, that's the dream and that'd be amazing. But even when, like you spoke about it before in your podcast, often who was you talking about? Anthony Bourdain, I think you were talking about.
Yeah, literally just sprang to mind.
Like, literally,
again,
like,
I'm just going to close this door.
some of your fondest memories are I'd actually say nine times out of 10 your fondest memories once you've made it are the memories of when you first starting out hustling, because you had nothing, but it was all new and it was exciting, and I think to myself, like, I love that element of just everyone mucking in. And I think if you look at our personalities, everybody's been involved in this shoot, I don't think there's anybody that's precious. Like, there's nobody that it like wouldn't do anything to make the documentary happen. Do you know what
Everyone's
I mean?
hands in pretty much.
Hands in, sleeves rolled up, and like I hope and pray that I never become somebody that, like, whether I become successful in this game or in my career or whatever, I hope I never become somebody that's too good to do something, become too precious.
I think that's what makes Anthony Bourdain's series like so successful, where that never changed. You know what I mean? From when he first started out, it was always just like a 4 or 5 man crew going around the world, like everyone just helping everyone out with all the dumb shit that they're getting up to. And no matter how like successful it got and how bigger the budget might have been, I don't think that ever changed.
It's amazing.
So I think like it should always stay the same. If this is something that you lot enjoy and like CSO's doing, and this is where you found most enjoyment in, just because now you're making more money doesn't mean you need to be doing a lot more. You know what I'm saying? You can just be like reinvesting that and maybe like better bits and bobs, like maybe 1 or 2 extra helpers, but for the most part you just kind of keep it how it's always been, fam. You know what I mean?
Obviously the thing is as well, like, hindsight plays a big part in this, right? Because when you're in the moment and you're stressing about, you know, is the premiere going to be good? Are people going to like it? Are we going to have enough chairs? This really hard hitting, worrying stuff. You know, you can't see it for what it is, right? It's after the fact, it's after the moment. It's, you know, a day later, weeks later, months later, you look back, and we'll look back at this, and no matter what happens here tonight, we'll always be like, that was so fun. And fun is the most important thing.
For sure, bro.
100%. Like, did we have fun doing it? Yes. Was it stressful at times? Yes. But again, like, mate, one day, you know, you'll look back and you'll think, what did it matter? It was just so good. It was so fun.
That's it.
It's all about the process for me. It's always been about the process. You know, a lot of filmmakers. There's this one guy called David Sandberg, I think his name is. He's a big Hollywood director. But one thing that he's managed to do is he's managed to stay down to earth enough that he does like his own YouTube series, and in that he kind of does like, here's some advice that I've basically learned because I was an indie filmmaker that got thrust into Hollywood, and these are certain things I've learned through the process of that I'm going to try and give you, and all this kind of stuff. It's wicked. It's brilliant. YouTube channel, Pony Smasher, I think it is. And one of the ones is, inevitably what happens is, the day that you finish the project and you get it out to the world, this kind of inherent depression starts coming into your life, because this thing that was like all encompassing is now just done. Like the process is over. And I think obviously creatives need to chase that high constantly, right? So once one project's over, it's like, let's get into the next one. And that's
is it just a drug but in a slightly different form? I guess it is. You get the same buzz, right? Like adrenaline.
It's like a months and months long buzz. Yeah, I think it is.
It's also pick your poison, though, isn't it? Like if you're gonna take drugs, the buzz that you get from drugs don't have the same effects as the buzz you get as something like doing something like this.
Except for DMT.
We tried it.
So funny story about this. I've had a DMT vape in my like, I was gonna say on my person. It's not always with me, but I've had it. I've opened it. I've had this kind of vial of DMT, like a liquid type thing, a resin, for probably now 4 years.
Damn.
And I bought it. I think I bought it during COVID actually, and I was like, I'm just gonna try it during COVID with some close friends that I was allowed to see during COVID. And we just never got around to doing it anyway. So since then, a lot of my close friends that could do it have done it, and they've been like, it's amazing. I've still not done it. I've got it in my flat, right, ready to go.
That's when the police knock on your door.
Yeah.
I had you on a podcast.
Might want to cut that bit out.
I have it in a safe house, ready to go. But yeah, of course, I've got Glastonbury tickets this year. So
that would be good.
I don't know if I've ever told you this. Have I told you this about your DMT?
I've done it all. I stole it.
I
replaced it.
I was once house sitting at your house when you still lived in Hatfield, and I was on a downer. I had made a film, and I'd entered this like directing competition thing, and as a part of the process, you had to send off like a 15-second clip of one of your films. At the time, like, that had my back up. I was like, that's bullshit. Like, what can 15 seconds tell you about me as a person, as a filmmaker? But whatever. I found the best 15 seconds I could find, sent it off. Another friend of mine entered it as well, and they got in. And I didn't, and it was Guy. I was like, oh man, I was just like, and my friend is a very good filmmaker, so obviously power to them. But I had convinced myself of a certain level of quality that losing this all of a sudden kind of took away from me.
Yeah.
I felt really sort of jet down, and I was house sitting at Jack's, and I just thought,
where's that DMT pen?
I must have told you that I had it.
Yeah.
We must have.
And I literally went to say, where the fuck is that DMT pen? I'm gonna go do it. So I went and I got the DMT pen, climbed up to the back of the cupboard, found it, got it out, went to do it, didn't work. Charged up the vape for ages. Tried again, didn't work. I was like, right, I'm going to charge it for another hour. I'm going to watch something and charge it for another hour. If it doesn't work then this is a universe telling me not to do DMT tonight because I'm obviously not in the right headspace.
Which, by the way, I'm actually glad that didn't happen.
An hour later, I tried it, didn't work. I was like, right, okay, that's that then. But it would have been a very different night.
Well, it would have been different space. Because, you know, people say, and it's almost the same as that, you know, about ayahuasca retreats and shit like that, yeah? Like there's a level of preparation it takes to even do something like that.
You have to be in the right frame of mind first. Yeah. Some people like fast for like 2 days before and like
this is an ayahuasca thing.
Detoxing and shit like that.
We have Callum and I have. Am I allowed to talk about this on the dark? Like,
we can talk about anything, man.
We can talk about anything, whether you want to is a different question.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like you've already gone too far.
Yeah, you dipped a toe, you got
just keep swimming, baby.
Yes.
You know, like that fable about. I don't know if this is a fable actually. Maybe something I just always think like when you swim halfway across the river and you think, oh, I can't swim the rest of the way, and so you swim back again. But you just kept them going forward because you've already done the half.
Oh yeah.
Just do the next half, right? This is the next half.
I feel like
mushrooms right now.
I feel like tomorrow you're gonna message Juan and be like, dude, can you cut all that out?
Yeah, I want to be like, bro, too late, man. It's live.
No, not at all, man. Not at all. I feel like I was just say we have a mushroom pact.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Oh, mad.
What's the pack?
So like, so
To do it.
I've been fortunate enough in my life to have some pretty mind-bending experiences. I was in India
Same.
and all these different places,
Yeah.
in the jungle, all that.
Yeah.
Really cool and really actually, and it's going to sound like, if anybody who's never done it, they might think that this is all just like hocus pocus, but some really life-changing, like
For sure,
beautiful, life-affirming moments,
For
right,
sure.
from some of this hallucinogenic substance materials that nature gives us. But I said to Callum, who has never done it, like I'm so keen to be the first person that he does
That he
it.
does it with.
And so we have a pact.
I'm pumped.
I think that's good, bro. I think that's like if you're ever gonna do something like a psychedelic experience, you want to do it with somebody who, one, like not knows the ropes, but knows the ropes, and two, that like is always gonna have the best interests at heart, bro. Because look, I'll let you into like one of my most recent psychedelic experiences. In fact, my most recent one. I was at home with 3 friends. I'm not gonna say the names. I don't want to put them on blast, innit?
Mate, we've already got swum half of the river. Let's just bring everyone down with us.
Alright, cool, whatever, innit? So I was with, I'll say, I don't mind. And to be fair, all 3 of them have been on the podcast too. So I was at home with my cousin Jasmine, my friend Seb, and my other friend Ashley, yeah.
We're all going to prison together.
We're all holding hands and fucking falling down the hole.
By the way, all of this stuff was done in countries where it's legal, yeah?
No?
Just FYI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
All this stuff was done in countries where it's legal.
Oh yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, I wasn't living here at the time. I was just living at somewhere else. So
It's in a different universe. Curious.
So yeah, bro. So like, look, this is what I say to the people like that have your best interests at heart. Yeah. So obviously, like, took the mushrooms, and then we was just chilling, having a good time. Then some people started like tripping. They started seeing things. I was like, yo, am I seeing what I'm seeing? It's like, what you seeing? Like, shit's moving, bro. Like, I can see like shapes. I can see leaves in the sofa. Like, what? And it started so good. We had like nice house music playing in the background. It was just very chill, like nice, like relaxing music, and everyone was just catching such a good vibe, bro. Like the girls were like almost being playful like babies, because it kind of not takes you to that state, but like if you just open yourself up to it and have fun with it, it can be like that. You know what I mean? It's just mad interesting, bro. So
you
then,
have to open yourself up.
yeah, you have
really.
to, bro. You have to. So it's crazy interesting, like the things that you see, what you feel, like how you think, like everything, bro. And then obviously we were having a good time. And then for me though, because I'm like a big overthinker, well at least I was. I try not to be anymore, but I still am. I still find I am. But I'm a big overthinker. So I think in that particular moment in my life, I was in a good space, but I was still trying to figure things out. So I didn't know whether like certain things even fitted in my life. I didn't know how they fitted in my life or whatever it was. And I think I was still dealing with a lot of things internally as well. So I got to the point where like doubt started creeping in, a bit of self-doubt started creeping in, like a bit of like anxiety started creeping in and all that sort of stuff. And then what ended up happening was it got amplified, because I could feel how much like my self-doubt and anxiety would spread in the room. So there were moments where like the mood was picking up, like, everyone's having a good time, we're all on the same wave, we're all catching a nice little buzz in it. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, shit, like I'm having a good time, everyone's having a good time, fuck, like I don't want to feel bad because then it'll make them feel bad. Fuck, like I'm spiraling, so fuck, like, oh man, like, I can't have a good time, and this is just, I can't do it, I don't know why, like what is it, I can't figure it out, fuck. And then by that point, yeah, I was like having so many like overthinking, anxious thoughts that like I could feel the room getting smaller, and I could feel everybody else's vibe like catching onto that too. And bro, it took me to a place where I had to separate myself, I was by myself, and I was thinking like, fuck, like why do I feel like an outsider looking in through like a glass box that all my friends are in and they're having such a good time, but I can't get there, but I can see them, and all I have to do is just go through the window, but I can't. And I ended up getting to a point where like it kind of got a bit suicidal, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But
during the trip?
Yeah, during the trip, like I thought to myself, fuck, like, is this how it's just always gonna be? And if this is how it's always gonna be, then it kind of feels like this is how I'm gonna wither away. Like in just terms of like, I'm never gonna be able to break through that glass. My friends are gonna end up like going somewhere else, and I'm just gonna be like left behind, sort of thing, innit? And I was like, fuck, if that's the case, then I might as well just go now, innit? And it got to that point, innit? But I never thought to myself, I'm actually gonna do it. It just, I felt all those emotions, and I could see it all.
Yeah.
And like part of psychedelic experiences is having moments like that. It's not that it's a bad trip. It's not that it's a bad
this
moment.
is it, man.
It's just that like these are the things that are lying deep within you that the psychedelic experience has opened up for you, so that you can now see. And then once the trip is over, it's all about how you integrate that into your life. But bro, like, why I say it's so important to do it with people that you can trust is because in that moment, bro, anything could have happened. Do you know what I mean? Anything could have happened. But the fact that I had 3 people around me that I could trust, and one of them like being my boys, being one of my best friends from like knee height, bro, meant that like I could separate myself. People could take their time. My boy could come with, like, to me. We could have like real good sit downs and chats during that moment that could calm me down, and he could just be like, bro, it's cool, man, you can relax. And like it allowed me to just kind of like settle back and like ease myself back into what was going on, allow myself to like feel and experience everything, and like try to understand, which is the most important. Because in the moment you might not, but like as time progresses, as days goes on, as weeks and months goes on, like you might end up like having conversations with people where shit in that trip starts to click and make sense. Because bro, like since, and that was like, I want to say this was like in September, like early September, yeah. But from that point forward, I think the first week, like I was at work having conversations with my boss, and my boss is also like a very open-minded and free person, non-judgmental. Like it's so good to have conversations with him, yeah. Like I would just ask him questions about, like indirectly questions about the whole trip and about how I felt, and just asking him like how he would see certain things, like what his point of view was. And I like to ask him because he's only a year older than me, but he's got 4 kids, he has a family, he has his own business, like he's very much like well structured, and he's got like a mental fortitude, bro. Like man can just, you ask him anything, he's very logical, doesn't like need time to like overthink things. He's just very much like, this is the most logical answer, it's probably what makes sense, let me give it, you know what I mean? And conversations with him, learned a lot, gathered like many thoughts that I said to myself, this kind of makes sense about the whole trip, why I felt the way that I felt. And as time went by, like even though maybe I had already dealt with it, there were still things in the back of my mind that I'd think about and I'd ask other people. And bro, like we're in December now. I'd say from when that trip happened up until December, speaking to people around me that I've always had like just myself at their best interest, and obviously vice versa, you end up having all these crazy conversations where you look back at that moment, I'm just like, fuck, like that's why I felt the way that I felt. You know what I mean? So that's why for me psychedelics are such a powerful thing, bro. But it's good that you got a brethren like Jack who wants to do it with you.
I think those are the two elements, right? And I mean, just to distill the point even further to what you're saying, psychedelics are a powerful thing, but so is like those friendships and those human connections, right? Bro. And that's exactly why you need to pick the people in your life to do certain things with, and to, I guess, to bring that back around to the film, right? You have to pick who you make shit with. You have to pick who you. If you're gonna allow yourself to become as vulnerable as a creative as you can, you need to have people around you that are willing to allow you to become vulnerable.
I almost wouldn't want to make a film or a documentary with somebody that wasn't or didn't have the same mindset as that you just depicted there. Yeah. Because one of the things I loved about this partnership and continue to love about this friendship is that there's never any hard feelings about anything, right? You have a disagree and move forward. And it's so important. It's like they call it in business, they call it healthy productivity. Like,
for sure.
It's absolutely fine to disagree, but you always got to move forward.
The best friendships are built on that, because how can you ever assume that you're going to agree 100% with anyone? Like literally no one.
It's impossible.
You can't even. So say you have like a twin, right? You had the same upbringing, you've had the same experiences, you're effectively identically the same person. You're not going to agree 100%. It's impossible. And the point is, you just have to like recognize your differences and recognize that your similarities and your strengths are so much better and stronger than your differences are. Your differences are irrelevant compared to all that shit.
Well, everything that we've just been speaking about, it all harks back to one thing for me. It's like, it's so nice to have a support. Whether it's you're going through like a psychedelic experience for the first time, or you're really putting your neck out there and building, creating a film that you're going to put in front of loads of people. And it's scary, and you like you said, you're going to be vulnerable. But doing that on your own. And by the way, people do that. It's super brave, by the way. But for me, as someone who's like been in business and has been creative and built things creatively and stuff, it's so much nicer to have that person you trust next to you. Being that sounding board, being that crutch to each other.
Bro. Yeah, man, I can't lie. That makes you think so much about so many things that I've experienced in life. Like, just fairly recently, I was telling Callum that I rekindled with one of my old friends, innit?
Nice.
Like, bro, we was mad tight. I think we went to the same secondary school, but I was a year older. Like, pretty much throughout all of secondary school, we didn't really chat to each other. Then when I got to sixth form, he wasn't in my sixth form no more. He went out to play football. But then we became mad close just through football. And then from that point forward, we were just like together at the hip,
Yeah.
pretty much all the time. And then, like, life kind of hit me. I was in relationships, doing my own thing. Then he got into a relationship. He was doing his own thing. We separated for a while. But now that I'm single and he's single and we're kind of back on the same thing again, we've rekindled that friendship. And now we see how much we've grown and how much, like, we value that kind of a relationship where it's just kind of like you're both open, honest people. You know that you're not going to agree about everything, but you're both willing to make, like, progress with each other and have each other at your best interests always. I forgot what I was going with this, but it made me. I think I remember. It made me realize the importance of, like, one, having those friendships around you, and two, like, making the most out of it. Because, like you say, you can do it independently and by yourself, but it's just so much more harder. And it also made me realize and understand how much, like, maybe not how much, but why certain people only like mix with certain people, while others don't. Why some people are up here, while other people are still down here struggling. Why, like, I don't know why society just, like, functions the way that it does, isn't it? And it brings me back to this other thing that I was watching called Atlanta, bro. You need to watch
Atlanta's
Atlanta.
amazing, man.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, amazing.
Fucking incredible. Have you seen it?
I've not seen it.
Bro, you need to watch it. It's so nuts, yeah.
Donald Glover's best.
Yeah, incredible. But there were certain scenes that I was watching in Atlanta, yeah, that, like, I was just left kind of stunned, fam. Like, you have on the one hand a group of people that are very much like that with each other, yeah, but, like, each person is still trying to do their own thing, kind of. And then when you see, for example, Donald Glover going to all the record labels, and the white guy comes out and he says the N-word to him, and he's just kind of like, and he doesn't say nothing. For me, it's kind of like there's so many different types of people that value different types of things in life, innit? Like, for some people, like, if you value money and business over everything, like over friendships, like, not loyalty, but like trust and honesty and all that sort of stuff,
Integrity and stuff.
yeah, that's what you kind of end up accepting, because for you it's just like, I'll let that one slide because you're going to put money in my pocket. But life shouldn't be like that, you know what I'm saying? That's when things kind of start going sideways, backwards and blah, blah, blah.
Where do you draw the line, like, in the sand between, like, being true to who you are?
Yeah. What, selling yourself for business and money?
I think that's where your levels of integrity come into
man.
question, right? Well, or not even question, but just come into play. People have certain levels of integrity, and they have a threshold, right? So my integrity lasts up to here, and if you go beyond that, then we are not going to be okay.
I love this thresholds thing as well. Like, we speak about thresholds all the time. Like, I've spoken to you about, like, people's capacity to deal with things like stress. Like, what's your threshold for stress? Like, some people are willing, and I'd say happy, but they're more inclined to put up with a higher level of stress than certain other people. And there's these thresholds for all sorts. Like, what are you willing to put up with in a relationship, in your job, in this creative process? You know, in life in general.
Do you think it should be like a subjective thing or an objective thing? Do you think everyone, like, the way I thought about it now, yeah, was sitting down, was like, again, the whole thing about integrity and, like, where do you draw the line with certain things, yeah? Obviously, it's different for everyone because everyone has different priorities and different values, right? So, for example, if some people value money more than, let's just say, like, having friends and that sort of level of community, well, then they'll be able to tolerate a lot more, like, shit from other people, because at the end of the day, they're just kind of like, whatever, you're going to put money in my pocket anyway, that's what matters the most. But for other people, they wouldn't be willing to deal with that shit, because for them, having, like, being respected and being respectful, having the truth and also receiving the truth, giving it whatever, like, having that level of, like, connection with that person is a lot more valuable. And if you're not receiving that, then I won't tolerate that kind of stuff. But the reason why I ask is it objective or subjective is because if you think about things logically, which I guess a lot of people do tend to do, but do also neglect, surely the most important value for everyone universally would be honesty, truth, respect, like love, and like all that sort of stuff. So then technically the threshold should be the same across the board, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think what you refer to as utopia, right? And it's an impossible world.
Do you reckon?
I think well, yeah, I do. Yeah, I think it's ultimately subjective. I think people's thresholds are completely different. Like, so for instance, my threshold for stress is terrible, and my threshold for stress at work is even worse. And if I get stressed at work, I start spiraling and start going, right, I'm not getting paid enough for this level of stress. What am I doing here? What is the fucking point of work? This is absolutely, like these are the kind of things I'll start going into. But the people that are a bit more mentally fortified when it comes to like dealing with stress, work won't affect them like that. And thus work is not so much of an issue. For me, if the work isn't my own work, forget it. Like
I'm there as well.
See, I remember this.
I'm
So
there.
we've spoken about this so many times. You and I spoke about that first time
Yeah.
at the Regent after football, and you said to me, you was like, I was doing a job and it was so stressful, and it was like, what is the point? Like, it's not making me happy. I'd rather, I'd rather find a different job that is even if it's paying less or whatever, that's going to give me more time.
Yeah.
By the way, time is definitely the most important commodity that anyone has. It's, and sometimes you need to take a step back to realize that this high flying businessman making millions and millions of pounds or dollars every year, what do they want more of when they're on deathbed? They don't want more money, they want more time. Time is key. Sure. But and this is the pendulum part of me, right? Like I find myself in this constant kind of battle internally. I'm not losing sleep over it, but it's
I'm there too, by the way, the pendulum thing. But
it's that battle of like,
I'm there too.
I have a pretty stressful job, but it pays really well, and I'm doing well in my career. Like, who cares? But that it is what it is, right? Like I've got a good job, and people would say, oh, he's doing well in his career or whatever, if that's what's important to you. But at the same time, I sometimes look at my week and I look at my diary and I look at the time I put into that. Like every day. Sometimes I start work at 6 a.m, don't finish until like 8:30.
You invest more time into something that's not yours.
It's not mine. I don't own it. Yeah, it's paying me well. But like at the end of the day, like, is that important? Is that really important? But it does allow me, and this is what I said to you before. It does allow me things that I wouldn't otherwise have. Yeah. It allows me the money to do kind of pretty much what I want when I want, go on nice holidays.
Do you think that's
you? I mean, and that is the trade-off.
Do you think that's you justifying the trade-off, or do you think
Probably.
that like that's you understanding that like this is the trade-off and I'm fine with that, I'm okay with that, I'm cool?
It's a great question, man. A wise man once said to me, and it's one of my favourite things that anybody's ever said to me is, in life you've got to choose your stresses.
Yeah.
You can either be stressed about the fact that you can't put food on the table, or you can be stressed about the fact that you're working 60 hours a week. I mean, they're obviously the extremes of each end of the spectrum of that scale. But I like that. I get that. That for me, that I kind of like that analogy, if you like, because I would rather be stressed about how much I'm working than be poor and not have enough money to be able to feed myself. I think most people probably say the same thing, by the way. But yeah, maybe I am kind of like making my own excuses for the choices I've made.
No, I don't think so, man. I never really looked at it in that manner. What do you think?
No, I think stress is obviously a really important emotion generally. Yeah. It's not like people that live stress-free lives aren't living full-rounded lives. It's just not practical. I like positive stresses, and I like I think you said important as a word, and I think that's a great word. I like to be stressed about things that feel important to me. I feel daunted about tonight, and I feel daunted about this sea of chairs over here because I think it's important. I think it feels like this is a culmination of something that we have done. It's ours. It's important to us, and that's why it's stressful. That's why it's daunting. If this was someone else's event and I was doing the same job, setting up the chairs, getting it ready, I would have no stress about it. But the stress is positive. Yeah, the stress is good. The stress is good because it's important to me. As I say, if it's someone else's premiere tonight, it would be the same job, but there would be no stress.
Yeah, it's kind of like choosing to be stressed about having a toxic relationship when you know you can walk out, or choosing to be stressed about a particular project you're working on, and you know that stress is going to get you through, and by the time you finish it, you feel accomplished.
Sure.
I feel like these days when you're head down in the grind, like the only time now that I really get to like reflect on my life and kind of how I'm living and stuff and be introspective is when I'm on holiday, because it's obviously I'm away from everything, right? I'm even away from just where I live. So I go on holiday, and it always if I go on a 2-week holiday, for instance, it takes me about a week to just fully be appreciating the fact that I'm on holiday and I'm not thinking about work and that's how long it takes me. And then I can start thinking about what really matters in life. And I always find that when I'm on holiday and I'm seeing amazing like scenery or having these amazing experiences, I'm like, man, why am I getting so like stressed and like pent up about like how well I'm doing a job? Insert job name here. Do you know what I mean? Like but then if I didn't care about that stuff whilst I'm in job, I lose
have
it.
the holiday.
And then I wouldn't have the nice holiday with the nice experiences. And like I recently, you met obviously, you know Liv really well, and you've met Liv a few times. Like Liv and I got engaged in September.
Congratulations!
The best thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, and like the foundation of that thing happening was the fact that my job allows us to work from abroad for up to a month, right? So we went and worked from Lindos, which is in Rhodes, Greek island, and we could work remotely from there for the month.
That's sick.
Not many companies offer that opportunity, so big shout out. That was really awesome, and it like opened a few different doors and stuff. But the point was like at the start of that 4 weeks, I took 1 week off holiday, asked her to be my wife. And she said yes, and we was engaged. And we spent the rest of the time out there as an engaged couple, like just living the dream. And I remember thinking, like, this is almost like, this feels like a happy medium almost. Like I'm working still, but I'm in a different setup. I'm in an environment. I'm getting up early and going hiking before work. And it got me thinking, like, maybe you can find that happy medium. Like maybe just to work it a bit harder. But you can find a happy medium of being successful and happy, or whatever that looks like. Right?
You sure can, yeah. And I think sometimes people push the success thing too far. They kind of go like, oh, a lot of people chase that because they think it will make them happier, when actually they were probably at the happiest like 5 steps ago, and actually going for broke and going higher is actually making them less happy, but they don't realise that because the grind is getting them up there. And that's the thing. But again, I think like maybe the holiday thing is a perfect reason to again recognise what's important. You're out there with Liv, you're exercising in the morning, you're focusing on your body health as well, which is something obviously you do anyway, but like these things are happening as well, so you're getting the work element done as well, but you're also doing these really important things, spending time with the love of your life, focusing on your health, going out, having nice food, having drinks, whatever. When I recently went away with my fiance to Scotland, and it was basically the same thing. The things that were important in my life were playing out very, very vividly. Me and Faye in Scotland, going to like amazing locations in Scotland, looking at amazing places together, spending time together. But she is great. She said like, anytime I went to the toilet, anytime I went to the shower, anything like this, she'd hear through the door that the Hatfield documentary was playing on my phone. Because the two things that are important to me at the time, the two things that are important to me at the time was when we're together, we're going to have this amazing time together. When I'm isolated on my own in this situation, I'm gonna watch this, see if I can make any more mental notes. How can I make this edit better? All these kind of things. And these are the things that are playing off in my head. And being away from the general day-to-day grind, having to go to work on this stuff, allow my mind just like, okay, what while I'm out here, what's good, what's working, what's important, and those are the two things that manifested.
That's lit, man.
Can I
relationship with my creativity.
Yeah, go on.
In turn, how much longer we got?
We've got 9 minutes.
Oh, perfect. What is your most creative space? Like, where do you find, like, in your life, where do you have the best ideas? Like, what are you doing when you have the best ideas? I'll give you an example. I think my creative space is when I go for a run. I've recently been doing a lot of running, and sometimes you're out for like 2.5, 3 hours of running, just non-stop, right? And it's mad like, stuff I'm thinking about.
Mental, isn't it?
Well, I'm just so I don't want to go off the tangent, but basically, like, I set myself a challenge today that I was going to run the whole River Thames from start to finish. Yeah, over like the course of like.
Have you done it?
I've got like 2 more to do.
Nice. Do you think you get it done before?
Yeah. I've got 2 more, like 13.5 miles to do or something like that.
Sick.
So anyway, but I find that when I'm running, I find it like a really creative space for me. Like I think about so much, and I sometimes I start a run with a problem, and by the time I finish a run, I've got a solution. And it's amazing. I find it's like I love that. So same question, like what is your creative space?
Do you want to go first? I'll be honest, but I don't think I have like a specific one. Like I feel like I've done the same thing, like gone through the thought processes and answered certain questions while meditating.
Nice, yeah.
That's one. I find another that I do the same when I'm cycling.
Nice.
Other than that, like I think through conversations with other people, like what tends to happen with me, yeah, is, let's say for example I meet up with a friend and we end up just like talking about so many different things and things that you want to do, or like issues that we're going through, whatever it is. Like I'll be in two places at once. So I'll be listening to the conversation. Anytime like they might say anytime they might say like a specific or certain thing, my mind, like part of my mind wanders and like starts to like go down these different thought processes about like that specific thing that they said, and how like maybe that can help, how maybe it don't, how maybe that can answer a few questions, how maybe it might not. But then my other side is still kind of listening and tuning in. So I find that in those particular moments, I have like moments of just like, oh, that makes sense, or oh, like that's helping me like put dots together, or oh, like, that's a good idea, you know, how can I like add my own little thing to this, or like how can I make this like tangible, whatever it is. So I think like those are like three main kind of places, but I think each one serves differently for different things though, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with meditating, it's more so like personal things, like maybe why I feel the way I feel, maybe why I'm the way that I am, maybe like certain like personal things that I want to do, or like how I'm going to do it, or whatever it is. When I'm cycling, it's just more so like playful creativity. So like I've one thing that I've always wanted to do is like music, like make music. Like I don't know whether that's like writing or producing or whatever it is, but I found that like whilst I'm cycling, there's times where like I'm just in my head and I'm thinking like, what might sound good if I was to write it down in like a little rap song or whatever, and then I find that like, oh no, I've got like a few little lines here that are like, they're pretty sick, they're pretty interesting or whatever it is, and then that's like for that. But then when I'm having conversations with people, it's just more so about like getting things going, like projects, or like I don't know, like little creative things here and there, and blah 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 blah. So I think each different one serves its different purpose, but I think those are probably like the main three that I find are creative spaces.
It's interesting that both of you had the exercise element into your
Yeah.
creativity. I think one of the main through lines there was there's a significant connection between body and mind, right?
Of course.
Which there of course is.
Significant,
Of course
yeah.
there is, yeah. I recently did a Tough Mudder. I don't run at all. I never run. I recently did a Tough Mudder that was
sick.
10 miles.
Sick.
And the 2 days before, I managed to run a mile, and I went, I can times that by 10. That'd be fine.
As a runner, by the way, I'm listening to that logic. I'm just it's stressing me out.
Yeah, it's good maths. It's good maths.
I did it.
Did you actually?
Did it.
My guy, bro.
My God, I did it, and it was actually fun. A couple of times, Jerry, who I did it with, will attest to, and Coffer will attest to this. That a couple of times I had to
We
slow
have
down.
other friends, by the way. Just
I have to slow down and like just and like okay, I need to take a bit. But like I think I probably ran 8 miles of the 10,
Like,
which is mad.
Yeah,
Mad.
considering
And
you don't run.
basically, as a result, what I had to do the 2 days before when I ran, and then that day, basically what I had to do in the process of running was learn how to run. And when I started hitting it and started getting onto this flow, and actually going like, oh no, this is working. Like I'm hitting a pace, and I'm fine. This is comfortable. And I'm keeping up with those guys, and we're talking at the same time. It's crazy. I felt really euphoric.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I wouldn't say I felt creative though. Maybe if I continue with it, which I have been doing. One of my writing partners, a guy I'm writing a feature film with, and we're going to write loads of other things together soon, called Andy.
Big
He's
up
coming tonight.
Andy,
He
coming
also
tonight.
worked on the Hatfield doc. He's quality.
good guy.
I run home from his when I do a session, and that's the longest run I do, generally speaking.
They're next door.
And it's great, but I haven't found that a creative thing first. But the conversation that you referred to, conversation with people, definitely 100%. And then my other most creative space is in the act of the process, in actually doing the thing, right? So writing I struggle with generally, but me and Andy, through the ability to be able to converse, through the ability to be able to talk with each other, hash out ideas, that's become intensely more enjoyable and more productive. But the filmmaking has always been a creative space for me, and where I feel most confident, most high, but just most I can actually do this. I'm
starting to tap
actually in
into
control.
something.
Yeah, when I'm directing a music video or directing this or a short film or whatever, I just have this abundance of confidence which I don't have in any other aspect of my life. And then editing as well. If I get on a vibe editing, so when we did there's a church down the road called St. Ethelred Readers where we did a really key scene in this film.
Lovely
It's
scene.
an amazing scene, so good. When I shot it, I kind of already knew. I was like, this is really good shit. I had to be on my best filming it. I knew that at the time, like this has to be great. And then when I was editing it, I was on such a vibe doing it. I felt so creative. I felt so alive. I felt the flow was amazing, and time just flew by. Like, what? It's been 5 hours. Fucking hell! It was that. Those are my most creative spaces, like bar none. I am interested to pursue getting more into running though, and seeing if that sparks anything. The other sport I do is climbing, bouldering. And
he's good at it
climbing.
as well.
Yeah, sick.
And what I find with that is I feel so in the moment. I feel so aware of like nothing else matters right now other than this situation that I'm in. So I find myself like much like meditation. You're forced into the present, not into the future, not into the past, into the present. I actually find climbing my most meditative process.
Sick.
And that hasn't sparked creativity in me necessarily. It sparked meditative. Meditation has sparked creativity in me though. I think the most recent feature film idea I have, which I told you about last time off camera, that came as a result of it wasn't meditation per se. It was like a sleep state that I was in that felt meditative, and it came then. So that's another one. But it's hard to access that. It's hard to be in a sleep state, but not you kind of have to not be conscious enough, because the second you realize you're conscious, you fucked. So you have to kind of stay in this sleep state and just allow it to do its thing without adding too much consciousness to it, and that's fucking hard. So that's a rarity, but that is a nice creative space for sure.
Is running the only place that you see it, or would you say there's other places?
I don't know if it's the only place. I think it's definitely the place where it feels more heightened. It just, like, for me, I think, like you said a minute, that kind of the physical exercise element, like the pain, going through the pain like threshold quite often. You know, like you're doing 13 miles plus, right? You're talking half marathon distance. I think the other day I done 15 and a half miles. And also you via doing the Thames running, like I'm having to like look where I'm going, and you got to get lost sometimes. You got to like retrace a step, and you're looking for signs, and it's, you know, it's like you can't just run. You're having to kind of think and stuff as well. So you're really alert. And I just think, for me personally, I've always found that I've always loved running, particularly long distance, and I've always found that if I've ever been really stressed, or like there's something on my mind, or I've got a problem, or things are going wrong in my relationship, or at work or whatever, the amount of times I've gone out for a long run with a problem, and I've come back, and not only have I vented via exercise, and you know kind of endorphins are flowing and stuff, but I've also worked out a solution.
Sick.
And I think that's amazing. And I hope everybody can find their version of that.
Yeah, for sure, man. What you reckon? We leave it there then? Yeah.
I think we leave it there. I guess we just close it by saying, I guess you'll attach the Hatfield doc to
100%.
in the comments.
I think it's going to be in a bio for sure.
Because
bang on time, innit?
I guess you put that in the link, because obviously we've been talking about that pretty heavily, so that'll be in the link.
I reckon stare down the camera. And just
it's a warts and all love letter to our hometown Hatfield, which you might not know about at this point, but hopefully you will learn a lot more about through watching that documentary. It's rough around the edges, but intentionally so in many aspects, and hopefully you'll fall in love with the main character of Judd, as we did through the process of making it. Thank you.
Cheers for having us,
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on,
Much
bro.
love.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for inviting me.
bro.
Nice.
Loved it, man. Loved it. That's so good.
I would probably think it's a bit of a shithole, to be honest. But the thing is like, I've done that myself. Like, I've gone to different towns